You know, they always talk about people have two kind of ways they think. There's either like a dialogue in their head or visuals.
Yeah.
I'm all visuals, so it's really weird to hear a voice in my head because I never hear a voice in my head.
That's strange to me because I spend a lot of time with the voice in my head.
I just see images. Like AI is the best thing that's ever happened to me because I can actually create the images I see now very fast, and so I can share the images that I'm always seeing with other people.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's why this is a whole new world for me. This is what you feel all day.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Constantly. That's scary. Yeah. So when you're in the shower, you're not going through a running dialogue in your head?
It's visual. The whole thing's visual. I'm literally picturing life.
All right, we're gonna have to come back to this because that I cannot wrap my head around that.
Yeah. I'm either seeing the past or I'm visualizing the future. There's no like conversation. It's just a world of images flying at me.
Okay, let's come back to that if we get into trouble.
All right.
In the
Me in the shower is our backup. Pull.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great.
So, without Travis Roberts, I'm excited about this podcast for a million reasons. I wanted to sort of just launch right in and say that we don't know each other. We don't have 20 years of history and backlog.
Wish we did.
I know. It would be cool. But what I think is going to be really cool about this is, you're one of my favorite people, and I think you conduct yourself with so much intention that I think it's going to be fun for myself and sort of the general audience or our friends and family that know one or both of us to sort of find out how we discover a lot of those like little isms that we have and things that we do.
Yeah.
So I thought, like, of all the people that I would want to do this with, I have sort of my personal board of directors, and not everybody knows they're on that board, right? And I'd sent you a message a while ago, like you kept coming up, and as I was like doing I use AI to capture kind of a log of my week, and I leave messages for my kids and my wife and my friends and family, and sort of have this weird feeling that like I'll be able to digitize myself with AI and sort of leave
Why does that not surprise me?
a version of myself that we could have asked questions.
Yeah.
I think of my grandfather, my grandpa Mac, and like my desire to like just ask him a question and not even say, what his version that he would have said in 1991 is right. But I just would love to know what he would have likely said.
Of course,
Yeah. And so it's probably somewhat narcissistic or, a bit much.
I like it though.
But when I talk about the people that are doing things that I admire or that I see going on, and then I ask for a report, your name kept coming up. And so I'm excited to do this with you.
Likewise, man. I mean, Jake, I feel you and I have a lot of similarities. I think, I love when you said intentionality. It's just, to me, there's a phrase I love. It's intentionality at scale. It's like, I feel like people think about intentionality as like one moment, but me, it's a collective, a lot of one moments that make up your day, your week, your month, your year. And if you do that, it makes magic happen, whether it's a work environment, whether it's with your kids. I mean, think about with your kids, like every moment to them is the only moment they're in, the only moment they're thinking about it. It's like, if you can be concerted in that effort, you really can make magic happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So I love that. You and I are very aligned there. So this is gonna be fun. We're
manifests itself very differently though. Like yours is a little bit more showy than mine. Like I'm more reserved. Like when we do the events, like you're either making some absurd over the top pizza or doing something on a like he'll wheel down.
I do have a pizza that
a Blackstone or a what's the name of your pizza thing?
An uni. Yeah. Rock the uni.
Killer pizzas, and like I love all of that, but I love riding in with like the drinks and the sauce.
The hot dogs. You always rock the hot dogs.
Always
Jake, you're the king of the hot dog. Like I'll rock out 50 pizzas, but the dogs and the buns show up with you every time.
Yes, that's easier. It's I can control that. I got a lot of control over that.
But the thing is, you got the bike set up though. You got the bike, the pole behind. That's what I need. I feel like the Goonie right now. I'm doing the whole schlep. I'm putting in the car, get it out, schlepp it out. I need the bike right on the back, the setup where the bike goes into the park. I heat the oven at the house, and I can ride down, heating it up while I get down to the park. We're ripping.
Be legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an over-the-top trailer on my e-bike that we have this weird neighborhood. In fact, that's part of what's inspired this podcast was we do so many things in the neighborhood, and I've learned from you and a lot of our neighbors like what community looks like.
Yeah.
And there is an intentional element to.
It's wild.
I thought it was just one neighborhood. It's actually like 3 or 4 that all sort of serve as a collective, and we have these little parks in each one. It's a really like it's a special place. But I think that it's taken the group and like generations of people who have agreed to sort of make a community out of it, because we could all just kind of do our own thing.
Yeah.
And being newer to the area, and it like my experience there has been like we didn't know about all that community. It was just a really convenient location for a house, and then we saw the park and I was like, this is a seems like a great place to raise kids. And just to like fast forward, shortly after meeting Travis, he was like, hey, we've got too many kids in the neighborhood to do a soccer event or a soccer team. And they were going to get split up into I don't know how many teams, lots of teams. And he was like, but if we keep it here, we can kind of keep all the kids that can play with their friends as opposed to being on 3 or 4 different teams. First year we had,
I had 40 kids set up this year.
Okay. So we were like overloaded and had multiple teams, and basically everyone chipped in like $100 and you created the football club.
Well, honestly, also it comes a little bit out of spite because we just finished T-ball season, and I kept thinking, we're paying these companies to coach our own kids.
Like community.
They're making me take out hours and hours of training to like coach my own kid and not give them any legal liability or waivers or all that. And then we get on these teams and you might not even end up on the team that you want with all your friends and your kids' buddies. So I thought, why don't we just do this ourselves? We're going to coach the teams anyways.
Yeah.
So I made a little flyer on Canva, threw it out, and we had 40 kids sign up. They all paid $50. Everyone got it like a logo jersey. You were like the PR social media guy making hype videos for everybody. It was an epic season. And then year 2, we had almost 50 kids signed up. And if you count siblings, we're topping 60. So you think what was nice about that is every Friday night, it was the neighborhood getting together. So we had like an average of 80 to 100 people there on any given night.
In the park in the middle of the neighborhood. It was
ripping.
Yeah. And so there would be one adult who would bring the adult cooler.
Yeah.
Somebody bring sex in the summer. Like we'd roll out. I mean, it really sounds like a dream. I mean, it kind of is to some degree.
Summer camp.
Yeah, but I think that like there are neighborhoods just outside of ours that don't do that. Like it's a weird thing, right? And I lived in the Highlands where it's a very similar area, and that intentionality is not there. I mean, we did an end of the year party for Friday Football Club, and what's the real estate agent's name? Todd. Yeah. Todd. So this is a brilliant move on his part. Yeah. He's like a little mini mayor of all of the neighborhoods, and like every house that sells, it seems like he's on one side of the transaction or the other, or ideally both.
Yeah.
And it's like really smart on his part, because I think he funded our end of the year party for this. Like,
so I called him because I was like, Todd, I know you want to be in front of all these families. Like, you're in real estate, you love the connection point. Like,
we're talking about it.
We're all there in front of you every day playing soccer on Fridays. Why would he want to be part of that group? And so we joined on that first year. It was great.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, and he like funded our like end of the year party, and it worked, because you're right. We're on a podcast talking about a real estate agent that probably very much wants to sell houses, and
100%
where we're bragging about our neighborhood.
100%. But now I know we debated having a brewery sponsor for a while because we had the adult cooler, but we thought, obviously the kid connection, maybe we should pull that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I think to sort of just put an emphasis on that, we looked at the community and we really started to evaluate as a group. The men sort of have their own. We have our own group, and we do this like annual dinner at our friend Manuel's house, which is like it's a smaller group, but it's I didn't know what to expect, and I sat down at the table. Is very well done on all fronts, like
polished.
He does not miss a thing, and sit down, and the first guy starts speaking, and it was like there were tears, and we were talking about loss in the family that year, and I was like, oh, we didn't come here to sip whiskey and have a good steak. This was what are you doing well? What are you struggling with? How can we help you? What can we do? And I just looked around and thought, oh man, we are so far away from what's normal to me and what I grew up in. And like if I couldn't, first of all, I don't know my father very well, but the idea that our fathers would have been getting together on a regular basis and saying, where are we dropping the ball? Like, where are we hiding behind things?
Doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen often. And so if I could encourage anyone to do anything, is like, just take on some intention. And like, even if it's just, you only feel comfortable doing it with one of your close friends, like, get caught up on what's actually going on in their lives. I've never been in a situation where I can go on a walk in a neighborhood and I'm passing 5 or 6 houses in this half-mile walk where there's a half dozen people that know like my biggest fear for the last 5 years, or the thing that I'm striving for the most in the next year. It is a crazy feeling, but I sort of got to just sort of walk into that. And I think, just to put it plainly, I think you lead that charge. You and Jeremy have like a different approach to this, where you have made it a huge piece of who you are to rein this whole thing in, and I am glad to be a part of it.
I love it. I mean, but the thing is, this neighborhood takes on is like I always said, like you can have a wild idea and people just say yes. And so sure, we talked about a soccer league, but man, we'll have a dinner. He sent out a text. Nobody debates it. Nobody questions it. Nobody says they have their plans. They say yes. If you want to do a camp trip, everybody says yes. You want to do a Whistler trip, everybody says yes. You want to do a fundraiser. For example, Katie and I were realizing post-COVID, we finally kind of pulled our heads out of the chaos of those couple of years and realized like we hadn't given back a lot. Like we haven't actually done something for like a community that's not our own.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's do a toy drive. And so literally Canva, I give Canva all the shout outs here.
Yeah,
but
Canva's
but
part of my
the little Canva fly together was like, we're gonna do a toy drive for Mary's place. We raised over $5,000 worth of toys. We had like 400 pairs of jammies. Like my entire office at home was stacked multiple feet deep of toys for this donation. And it was just because we sent a text out to the neighborhood, and we had not even just our friends, but neighbors of neighbors were all just dropping toys off by the day. And you're like, people just say yes. And I don't know why this pocket feels different.
It does.
But for me, I've been craving that. Like I've always been a hyperconnector in all the areas of life that I've always been into. But for some reason, sometimes you want to be a hyperconnector, but people still have their walls up and their guard up, and it's harder to get the yeses. For some reason here, everyone just says yes blindly, and which is scary, but it's also makes me just dream. And have you ever done an insights test? Have you ever done one of those?
No, not in depth.
So insights, it's wild. It's personality profile test, and sometimes it's like a Myers-Briggs. You know, you could take
Enneagram, yeah.
but this one specifically breaks you into 4 different colors. You can be a yellow, red, a blue, or a green. And the easiest way to describe those colors is actually, I'll give you actually a scenario. So if I just said, hey, Jake, I want you to plan a party. If you were a blue on the inside, so you'd be like, I need more than that. Like, I need details. How many people? Where's it at? What's it going to be? What's the theme? What's the budget? All that. If you're a red, you're like, give me the to-do list. I'll get it done. Give me the checklist. I'll hire a party planner. I'll move on to my next task. Like, be brief, be gone. If you're a yellow, you're me. Like, you're just like, let's go. There's a theme. If there's no rules, like, it's on a yacht. Jay-Z's coming. Like, it's like, let's go, right? And then green are like the glue that holds it together. They're like the nurturer of the group. They're the one you go to if you have an issue. They're the one that's going to talk it through. And so the reason I bring that up is like, I'm the true definition of a yellow to the fullest. Like everyone has all 4 colors. I think I only have yellow. I think I'm just solid yellow, and my wife hates it. And my wife, Katie, shout out, my ride or die. But that yellow in this neighborhood is what I've been looking for forever. It's like I can be big ideas and crazy off the wall, and everyone just like, let's rip. Like, let's have fun. Let's do something new. And I think it just makes it so where, I mean, my goal is this year actually is create 3 new events that nobody's ever seen before.
Well, you don't want to give them away. An example of something that someone hasn't seen before. What you sent me that text, and I was like, it was like late in the night. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Is this like?
Well, like, and some of it are just kind of funny. Like, for example, for the kids, they never know what to do. Like, Budapest has bathhouses, right? And like, there's no bathhouses in Seattle in that way. I was like, what if we just went to the park and we set up 20 different inflatable pools of different sizes and shapes, and all the kids got to come down and have like a bathhouse experience with all their buddies. They're rotating pools and having fun. Like it's just a goofy way of being like, this day doesn't look like the last one.
Yeah.
This weekend isn't just the same picnic. We're not bringing the same charcuterie tray. Like we're doing something where this feels like a year and a moment and a memory. You'll look back on it and be like, remember what that weird Budapest party at the park? Like that's what I want my kids to grow up with, is that feeling of like, my dad was doing some crazy stuff.
They're going to. I promise you. They're already going to say that.
I hope so.
For sure. Okay. Yeah, that's a good example. I think it's important that we touch on Dadcathlon just because I think that's what sort of glued the groups together. And it is a thing that I think secretly or maybe openly, we all hope that it could be a thing that sort of spreads outside of just our group.
Yeah.
But this is an event where dads compete against each other. So for the first, and I did not know what I was signing up for. Again,
no one did.
Someone pitched it and was like, "I saw you guys last year. I know you ruined the grass with the slip."
Oh yeah.
And so I got invited. Jeremy invited after T-ball. It was like 4th of July, which our neighborhood does this absurd 4th of July event. and this is all HOA stuff. It's not just like people with millions of dollars that pay for everything we want to do.
Bootstrapped.
It's bootstrapped, but like we bring in a dunk tank and an inflatable, and like the neighbors roll the extension cords out, and like make the most out of it. Some people does it like we have a little tattoo station. It's like all these fun little things, but nothing that's really all that expensive. It just takes somebody to pull it all together.
Yeah.
And the HOA's done a great job of that on their end too. But the the dadcathlon, it was like, hey, day after 4th of July, bring the kids down at what time do we
So it was
start?
9 to noon, or the
All
kids
kids.
field day.
Right. And so they compete against each other and against some of the dads. So we do like one dad tug of warring against 20 kids.
Yeah.
And like Jeremy told me about it, and I was like, I just want you to know, because he was like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. I was like, I just want you to know, I am going to can destroy everybody. Like I am like not the best athlete at any one thing, but I'm really good at most things. And I like in my mind, I was just like, even Susan was like, oh, they're in for a treat. Man, I was so gassed. I was so dead done. I have not finished in the top 10 any of the years of my competition.
Yeah.
The first year, the drinking portion of it, like I didn't pace myself well.
Yeah.
And I'd had a
Get you.
dummy. And by the time the things were really rolling, I was like, I got no
We
chance.
get you every time.
Yeah. Always start off pretty strong. A lot of the tossing, tug of war, haven't lost one yet. You know, there's certain things. But yeah, by the time dodgeball was out, I was done. But this is a tried and true, tracked, monitored activities one after another. Once the kids go, and the wives are feeling good because we handle the kids for the first half of the day. They kind of recover from a long 4th of July, and then we get after it. But I mean, it really doesn't end till like midnight.
No, it's like 9 to noon is the kid stuff. Then there's usually an intermission where we get all the kids home, and they're gassed, so we get them home, and ideally to some childcare if anyone has a grandparent, an aunt, someone to have the kids, and then the moms want to come down and obviously watch the show.
Yeah.
They sit back and watch it. But yeah, the event usually kicks off.
Basically, they laugh at us.
They laugh at
Yeah.
it. Yeah. It kicks off at 2, and I think last year it ended at 9 to 10, and then there was still obviously the after party of poker or whatever afterwards. But it is a marathon of a day. But the Decathlon had 10, 12 events this year. I mean,
Yeah.
we had some injuries. We always had to make sure a few doctors are in the mix.
Broken nose. Yeah, and it's extended out to other friends that I know outside of the neighborhood. I played basketball at the JCC on Mercer Island, and a guy walked in. He's like, I think my cousin and you did some kind of dad event this weekend.
Yeah.
And so we got Norm to come out the following year, and he's Norm. Oh, the little shout out for him. He owns Just Poke and a bunch of stuff. Literally a whole bunch of different businesses, but he franchises that and brought out all the food for us this last year. So we've like added people to it that are bringing, a whole new flair.
Yeah, and what I love about it too is, sometimes people hear Decathlon and they think like broy events. And there are, don't get me wrong, dodgeball, tug of war, they're broies can be, but they're like some of the other ones that we threw in a spelling bee this year, threw everybody
That
up.
messed me up.
That messed a lot of people up.
There were some quitters on that one.
Yeah.
Or Shaw, shout out to John Shaw. He wanted to be on that
A
stuff.
lot of that one. Or I love the year that the moms all brought all of the laundry that wasn't folded yet, and they had dads compete to see if they could match
That was
socks.
before me.
Yeah, they tried to match socks. All the moms got all the socks matched and all taken care of, and it was like the dads had to race to see how fast they could do it, which is one.
I missed that.
Yeah, it was good. I was like, well played, moms. Like, you get all your stuff done. It turned into an event that like nobody could even have any idea was coming.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, the final event this year was like, you had to swaddle a doll. You had to put on a diaper. There was a lot to it this year. I was kind of glad to be out of the run.
Swaddling will get you. Like if you haven't swaddled in a while, and the swaddles change quickly. So you got 3 or 4 different styles of swaddle. You don't know what you're doing. You're out of it. And I had twins, so like I've had a lot of practice there.
Yeah, and more recent
practice. Yeah, I mean the twins just turned 4, which is wild to say, but it's like I'm close enough to where I think I have a good grasp on it. But you have some people that have 6, 7-year-olds that. Ooh.
Yeah, that'd be me. It's been a long time since I've swaddled a baby.
So Jeremy and I this year we're talking about, I don't know if you've seen on Netflix, there's the Beast game. So it's Mr. Beast and his show. I will say there are some elements of that show that I would love to incorporate, because there's some quirkiness to even like how they do dodgeball. I think there are some complete fork wrenches into the people that typically think they're going to dominate these events.
Yeah.
This year I think we're going to jack that up real fast.
Wow. Well, I could use a change, because
We'll get you to the top 10.
a couple. I got to find a way to either prep myself a little better.
You got to crack it.
Yeah, it's been a rough. The spelling bee crushed me, because that was the separator right there.
Yeah.
And who knew that AJ can spell like
AJ and Eric, they were elite spellers.
I was sort of like curious how far that could go. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's people.
And the
There's not
the
much.
confidence they went to it too. 'Cause some people can spell, but they're still nervous. Those two went into it like I've been here before,
both
which
went
makes
spelling.
I was gonna say, it makes you kind of wonder what their background is at spelling because they weren't messing around.
Yeah, yeah. AJ was like annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, spit it out. Give me some sports
I
trivia.
know, I love it. I love it. And this year it'll be nice. We're actually thinking about whether we do it on 4th of July itself or the day before, because 4th of July obviously fireworks don't happen until later. So do you do it the way 4th of July falls? I think it falls on a Saturday this year. So we could do it on the Friday before, because that'll be the holiday for most work, which is gonna be awesome because you actually kick it off. We might be limping into the 4th of July, but fireworks.
You know, I'm not crazy about you guys changing up the schedule, but I'll let you do whatever.
Right.
You guys are in charge. I'll just print the T-shirts and show up there with.
Turned out good this year.
Yeah. Well, that's all fun stuff. I think that's cool for everyone to get an idea of like how some of the things we're doing. I have a question that I reached out to Jeremy Bruck, Jeremy's one of the guys behind Dadcathlon and a good friend and a business partner in a lot of ways. And I asked him if there was a question that he would love to hear Travis's answer on.
Oh God.
And yeah, and I asked him, I said, if you want, you could do the same thing and send him one. And so there's a couple of characters in our life, and I mean that lovingly, that will sort of work into the pod over time because I think they're wonderful. They're wonderful people, important. And so I have a question from Jeremy that I'm going to read to you, and you can take it as seriously or as light as you want. One of our commitments on the podcast was like, we don't have a lot of areas where we say, this is our theme. This is what we want to talk about. This is what we're about. Like, realistically, this is kind of a place for us to continue the conversations we're having with our close friends about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to build community. And we thought, well, what if we just did that sort of in real time and in public? And everyone says, if you're building a new project, like build it in public and share the storyline with people. So if this is our 20 dad friends that we do Dadcathlon with, great. If it's resonating with people out there, even better. But we're just going to kind of have the conversations that we would normally have. So you can decide whether or not this is a serious question.
Let's let it rip.
I haven't really read it, so I'm finding it now. So, and Jeremy just said, this is typical Jeremy. I'm not sure how I'm involved, so I'm just going to trust you in this whole process. But here's the question I've got.
Blind trust. I said, just say yes.
Yeah. He said, what's the moment or circumstance from your childhood that had the greatest impact on who you are today? I don't know how you take that lightly.
Yeah, you can't take that one lightly.
What's the moment or circumstance from your childhood that had the greatest impact on who you are today? And if you feel like that,
I mean, it's funny, you know, going into a podcast, you never know how much you're gonna just divulge on, you know, on having a conversation. But I'll let it rip because at the end of the day, it's probably gonna be just my mom listening to this. When I was 6 years old, I was walking around Disney. First trip to Disney with my family, right? We flew down, first time on a plane, get to Disney, enjoying myself in the park. Obviously, high excitement. I was pumped to be there. And I was walking, and I'd be walking, and I'd feel like I just needed to line my toes up. And so I'd walk, I'd stop, I'd line my toes up, and I'd move on. And I was 6, I was spastic 6-year-old, and so I kept doing it. And I had to do it again, and you know, a little bit farther, I have to do it again. People would be like, run into you. Disney's like packed, right? You're getting like
fast, yeah.
And so my parents just kept being like, "What are you doing? Like, walk. Like, why are you stopping?" And I'm like, "I feel like I need to." And what I didn't realize in that moment, and it kind of unfolded over like the months to follow, is my parents finally realized that I was having some of these weird body isms, if you will. They finally, when I got tested, I actually learned I had Tourette syndrome. So I got diagnosed when I was 6, which is a wild diagnosis to get. And obviously, as a parent, I think about that now of having a child diagnosed with Tourette and like all of the scary what ifs that just pile into your brain of what that would mean, of like what kind of life is that kid gonna have. And luckily, and there's a lot of forms of Tourette's you can have, and for those of you that don't know what Tourette's is, it basically is like your body has a bunch of involuntary movements that you feel compelled to do, and sometimes they're so strong you can't control it. And a lot of times,
I think when people hear Tourette's, they immediately think outbursts, vocal outbursts, right?
They jump to the movie version of it, which is the like loudest curse words. Like you're doing things that are just like in public you can't not see.
Yeah.
There's a ton of variations of Tourette's, and luckily I have one that isn't as extreme as those, but it's one that manifests with high intense emotion, whether that any emotion. So tired, excited, sad, happy, elated. You name the emotion. If it's on a far end of it, it triggers my body into different motions. So that day I goes at 6, imagine a kid, like you're at Disney, of course it was spiking. I was in the happiest place in the world. My happiness was at a 10. I was at a full and I was excited. I was going on roller coasters and all that. And so that moment happened. And, to your question of like made the most impact is that dictated a lot of my early childhood, because when you're going through everything from puberty to just growing up, you're at a 10 emotions and everything. Every kid's at 10 all day. And so Tourette's, when they're prevalent, get worse and they can get painful. They can get, there was times where I had ones that like caused me physical pain. Like I bite the inside of my cheek. I would flex my stomach, and imagine flexing your stomach 2,000 times a day.
Yeah.
It's not a workout. It's like literally you're in pain. You're torturing yourself. And so the problem is in earlier school years, I could kind of just ebb and flow in and out of it. Get into middle school, bully central. Like the more you do that stuff in public, the more you get bullied for it. The more you get bullied for it, the more you think about it, the more anxious you get. The more anxious you get, the more you do it. And it was this vicious cycle of just really having it was hard to go to school in that way. I was a great student. I never stopped learning, never stopped focusing, but you can't tell me that every hour of every day I wasn't focused on trying not to make a movement that would catch flack from someone around me. But what I love about it is there was a moment where I just realized that like, I just said this won't define me. And I remember it was the end of 8th grade. I was like, I'm about to move to high school. This isn't who I am. No one gets to decide who I am. Only I do. And I just set up on this mission to like, 1, control my body, and 2, control what I can control, and basically say, fuck you to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a verbal fuck you, but it was I'm going to go do what you say that I can't do. Mm-hmm. And so I did that in a lot of different ways. Like 1, I literally spent the summer trying to figure out how to control my movements. And what I learned about that is staying in a very happy, pleasant, breezy, I call it like a surfer tone. Mm-hmm. If I live the life of a surfer mentally, I stay at like a 7 all the time. And it doesn't mean I don't get super excited.
That is really helpful to know. It's a great example of something that I genuinely, obviously I know about the Tourette's, but like, I didn't have any context as to like what part of your management system and how a lot of your yellow fits into that.
Yeah. And I think I don't know if I would have always been a yellow if it wasn't for this. This forced me into I am in such a good place physically if I stay there. And so usually if something spikes me, if I get really frustrated with something, I can get back to equilibrium. Like my wife laughs, I'm like a golden retriever, because I truly can reset fast. Because I need to reset fast. I can't live in 24 hours of anger. I can't live in that lane.
It's expensive.
It takes such a physical toll on me. And so that was one way. And then it was 2, it was just going out and like doing whatever I wanted to like set my attention. And so it was like, I was going to be freshman class president. Got it. I was going to be captain of a sports team. Got it. I was going to, be an ASP president. Got it. Like I was like, nothing could stop me. And so I think Tourette's gave me the confidence to be like, I do what I do and no one can get in my way. And it became my superpower. Like, and then the more I got confident, the less people said, because they're like, doesn't matter. Like there's, they always say like bullies want you to react.
Yeah.
When you don't react, there's no more bullying. And then it gave me the power to then protect other people that were getting bullied. That like, there was another kid that had Tourette's that was a few years younger than me that I could kind of be a resource for. And it just kind of became who I was. And so I think now there's nothing that's defined who I am more than that. But a lot of people now, they might see that I have an eye twitch here and there, but I bet if you pull the most people I work with on an average base, I know mostly Zoom calls now, I don't know if people would know I had Tourette's.
Yeah.
I think they'd think I maybe have an eye twitch. I don't know if they would know I had a full blown like lifelong battle with Tourette's, but I'm open about it. But I think that it's like, again, the control thing, I spent a lot of my life figuring out how to manage it.
So when and I don't know if we're allowed to talk about where you work or what you do, but when you're doing an event where you're speaking in front of, if you're at a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah. I can say I work at Zillow, but I oversee an enterprise sales division there. So I am a leader of leaders. I lead a lot of people. But the thing is, it's funny you mentioned that. I love speaking in front of.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. You recently, you've been doing speaking engagements. I don't want to overstep and say you're like, you're like the company MC at this point. It feels like, anyway. That's the from what I'm seeing in the comments and the feedback from the stuff that's posted online, like you're crushing it as like emceeing events for a Fortune 500 company in front of the entire leadership team. Does that trigger any of this?
100%. Like in a way, like and it's a conscious choice. Years ago, I realized like public speaking is one of the biggest fears out there. And when I started public speaking, it was one of the biggest fears I had. But I realized with intentionality, if you focus on it, it's where Tourette's is loudest. And if I can control it there, I can control it anywhere. And so for me, it was like, how do I get on a stage that's a little bit bigger? How do I do 5 minutes in front of a crowd and not let it control me? Great, got it, check. Let's go to 10 minutes. Let's get to 15. Now let's do a fireside chat. Okay, great, I got that one. Now let's do a 20-minute presentation with no notes. See how the fear of not having a note and a crutch helps. And then it got to the point where I can do in 45 minutes on stage without a note. Like I can memorize the content, I can deliver it, I can MC, I can be real time without the preparation crutch. And it's that practice, but again, it's because Tourette's is so loud when I'm on stage that if I get off stage, life changes. It's a different gear of control that I need because it pushes me. And so for me,
sort of, right?
Yeah.
Stress yourself enough that you build back a little stronger.
100%. And so it's like, I wouldn't say I want to put myself in stressful situations, but I also spent a lot of my life doing combat sports because
I was going to bring that up, because when you say like you don't put yourself in stressful situations, that's like getting punched in the face is a stressful situation. And what I love is that, and I don't care about stepping on your feelings.
Yeah.
The 6-year-old with Tourette's that's getting bullied and picked on is now somebody you don't want to fight this guy. And so I think there's like, one of my first questions to you when I really got your backstory a year or two ago was like, man, did you box because you wanted to be able to sort of like put the bullies in their place, or did that come about just as like a practice?
It's kind of twofold. I think that one was the Tourette's angle. I don't even think I knew it then, honestly. But for me, it was those positions of stress. Like I spent 20 years in combat sports. So I've boxed for pretty much all those 20 years. I've done kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. I've done judo. I've done 5 years of Krav Maga. For me, it was that intensity of being in a situation that you can't control. Punches flying at you, kicks. I mean, Krav Maga could be a bat, could be multiple attackers. Like, how do you stay calm under pressure and stay in that surfer lane while you're literally like hands up? That changes things, but it also allowed me to release stress so that I could be a calmer version of myself afterwards. So I think there was a benefit there. And then two, it wasn't so much of like, I want to defend myself against bullies, but it was almost like I want to be able to defend people I care about. And it was just more of a self-defense mechanism. And again, I hope I never use any of this stuff. Like there's a wild story I'll tell you sometime about why I didn't need this kind of combat skill to protect myself. But it was just one of those ones where I just felt like it's just a good skill to know. It's like how to learn to play chess. Like it was like lifelong chess. But I mean, you grew up scrappy though. I mean, it's like
but not like I've always said, like, if somebody can wrestle or box, I'm gonna get the brakes beat off me. But if we're just scrapping, I would be fine. I'm a great guy to have in the group. But no, I think there's such a different discipline and the repetition of getting punched.
Yeah.
It's a conditioned skill. Like you have to feel what it feels like to get punched, and it's jarring.
It's not great. It's not great. My wife Katie, she gets hit by the kids a lot, right? Kids are always flailing, like a leg here, they're doing flips, somersault, and she's always,
especially one of yours,
right. And so she's always taking like a random elbow and head. I'm like, protect yourself at all times. Like it's like as a boxer, I'm like, you got to know where the weapons are. Like when there's a kid flailing, like you got to have
there's a heel coming.
You got to have contact on the flying limbs, and she hasn't perfected that yet. So she takes a few more shots. That like,
come on, Katie,
come on, Kate,
protect your neck. I think that the feeling. I was a decent football player in high school, and I've been like cracked a few times. Everybody has, especially when you're younger. Like you're a tackling dummy in the early years of high school football, anyway, and getting punched cleanly is it's so much more offensive than getting like annihilated on a football field. That hurts, and it's not pleasant to get a concussion or anything in that range, but just getting a clean shot to the mouth is not.
Boxing, I always say boxing teaches you a lesson faster than any other sport, because other sport you get tackled, you might get tackled again. You get punched really hard like a left hook, you hold your hand a little higher. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want the same mistake twice, and you learn it the hard way.
Do you think you will allow your kids to, like, would you encourage it? Are you concerned that they would take it? Like, I think you did a good job of like a lifetime of training.
Yeah.
I know you've boxed it, you know, you've gotten in the ring and fought somebody that was your equal, but like, obviously there's another layer to all of this, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not a professional boxer. It's
No.
not something you're going to do,
No.
you know.
I have one amateur fight, one amateur victory, and I've retired.
Yeah. And that's great. So I think, like, would you let your kids do it? Because I get the question all the time of whether or not I would let my kids play tackle football,
Yeah.
and I'm undecided.
Yeah.
Carter is, it's all basketball with him.
Yeah.
I'm not worried
Those
about
ballers.
right. It's just he's going to stay locked in there. Caden, TBD. I feel like he's got a little bit. Like he's, we'll see. But
Yeah.
I haven't decided yet what I'll do. And one of my friends who I've had on my other podcast, Ramo, WSU guy as well.
Yeah.
He played in the NFL for 6 or 7 years, and like we've had thorough conversations about this. And I think we still have landed on a, man, I hope our kids play basketball.
Yeah.
So when it comes to boxing, where are you at on that?
Yeah. And it's hard to close the door on a kid.
Yeah,
It's like when all the logic's there.
Good answer.
When all the logic's there, you just make that decision. But at the same time, you don't want to make a decision for a kid.
Yeah,
Like, you want to leave the
such
door
a good
open.
dad answer. Just don't, you know.
I will say this though, when it comes to, I think there's a difference. Fighting, that word, I think it has a negative connotation.
For sure.
I will teach all 3 of my kids to be able to defend themselves at all times. I'm a firm believer. There's a lot of different parents.
Just not Katie.
Oh, not Katie. Katie is getting her own. She's got to learn the lesson. I'm a firm believer that, like, some people are like, oh, kids shouldn't, you should never fight. You should never throw a punch. You should use your words. Like, that's not the world we live in. And so Atlas is my oldest, so he's 7. Obviously, the twins are Wilder and Harlow. They're 4 and 4. Obviously, they're twins. Clearly. With Atlas, I'm a firm believer that, like, I tell him this now. I'm like, if someone is picking, like, bullying you, there's 3 steps. The first step is use your words. Like, clearly tell that person it's not okay. If that step doesn't work, and you've done that, find an adult. If that step doesn't work, if there's no adult present, and the kid is still bullying you, you've used your words, and there's no adult present, you have the ability to physically defend yourself in any way you want to. There's no rules. I give no rules there, because it's his body. He gets to defend it. There's no one that tells him he can't. And I don't care. All the Hover parents, this is not a podcast for you for my advice, because I'm a firm believer in, like, I'm not saying he needs to go, like, hit someone with a bike or something, but I'm like, you can defend yourself and then get out of the situation. And that doesn't mean I'm teaching him how to fight yet, though.
Yeah.
He is not mentally able to handle control of a fight, of other the techniques. If I taught him how to throw perfect punches, perfect hooks, kicks, all of that, he would not know what to regulate that when he's goofing off with his friends or with his siblings, when he has a bout of frustration, as any 7-year-old would. I can't give him a weapon that could really hurt somebody. Like, right now, his fighting, no one's going to really get hurt on the other side. But if I taught him how to fight, they could really get hurt. And I'm not willing to do that yet. Will I teach him? Absolutely. Like, I started him in jiu-jitsu here about 3 months ago. But I love jiu-jitsu because it's rolling. There's no strikes, there's no kicks, there's no punches. It's all about body control. And that's really great to start with as a foundational block. I believe that body control matters. And then as he gets really comfortable with that, and probably, I'm guessing, like, I'm the ballpark this 9-10, if he's interested, I'll teach him how to start doing straight punches, hooks, how to use his kicks, and how to use those in space. Like, when you're 6 feet away, 3 feet away, close combat. And then the twins, they'll learn on whatever course they're on when I see, like, Wilder's a fire starter. So he might be 15 before I'm willing to teach him that. But Harlow, like, absolutely, having a daughter, like, I want her to, frankly, I even joked around that maybe she's the only one I should teach.
Right.
And that way
she has the savage of the group.
Levels the playing field. Because if I taught her Krav Maga, you give me a year or two and her brothers would never touch her again.
That's crazy. Yeah, I haven't had that. Carter enjoyed it a little bit, just from, like, a light hobby, but basketball has taken over all of his passion, which is fine. I think, I mean, hopefully, basketball for me came much later in life. I still hoop.
When did you start?
I played I was a high jumper, so I was a bouncy kid. So I know that's a surprise to a lot of people. Yeah.
What?
I was captain of the track squad. This is kind of a funny story. I went out for a track because I was a quarterback, and my junior year I had a nice little run, and they were like, "Well, throw the javelin during your off season. It's a good workout." So I was just throwing. That was the worst javelin throw. Like, Terrible.
Who gives you the advice quarterback to throw the jab?
Well, it's a similar like the ball comes from behind
Yeah.
behind the ear. It's a similar motion, and a lot of times quarterbacks are good jab throwers, and I just wasn't. Like for
Yeah.
whatever reason, I couldn't get it figured out. But before a jamboree, and I had a girlfriend that was a decent track athlete, and so I like went out and did it through the jab and was horsing around, really just using it for exercise. And before the day of our first jamboree, I always knew that in the wrestling room I could jump over the mats stacked as high as I am tall.
Oh wow.
So I'd run at them and I could just jump over, lift the feet, and land on the other side. And our coach came to grab us, and one of the guys, George Bagalball, he's like, Coach, you got to see Snake jump over these things. It's crazy. So we stacked him up, and I cleared it, and he was like, he's looking at it. It's like, stand next to that. He's like, come with me. He was also the head coach of our high school football team. And so we walked out of the back of the fire exit out of the wrestling room, and we walked down to the track pit and the high jump pit. It was like, Wingard, this is your best high jumper you've got at the school. And I wasn't at the time. My buddy Vince Smith was a good jumper, but I qualified for districts like that day. But I just ran straight at the bar and jumped over it, like lifted my knees up and went over like cannonball over the line. So I spent the rest of my junior year learning how to high jump, and I was decent.
It's an art.
Yeah, I was decent at it. Not I started way too late, but yeah, so I was always like athletic and had good run there, but I didn't play. I played like 21, and I was constantly just trying to dunk. That was my that was one of my parlor tricks. And so I small hands and short guy, like just like dunking Gatorade bottle. Anything I could palm, I could like throw down a little bit. And anyway, so I wasn't very good at basketball. I ended up living at PLU. I lived with the in the basketball house. So one of my good friends hooped, and there was eight guys that played on the hoops or on the basketball team, and me that lived in this tiny little house. So I was around basketball a lot, but didn't take it seriously until like 7 or 8 years ago, and just more of just like a way to try and offset the IPAs we're drinking at the park.
Yeah. How much do you think Carter's love for it stems because you love? I mean, obviously kids see that. There's no way that doesn't manifest.
Yeah, I think too. Some of it is my friends too. Like even my buddy Charlie is, he's 53 and was like a stud on Mercer Island, and still like kind of carries some swagger. Still at the JCC, kind of runs the show down there. But he played like on the Maccabi team and still does. And so he's playing at like an elite level in his 50s. And so for Carter to come down and watch, I had him come down because I mean Charlie was scoring like 70 points a game in our league. And so I was like, no, you got to come down and see this guy shoots from half court sometimes just for entertainment purposes. And he came down and tried to score like 67 in a game that Carter saw. And I knew that was the first time I'd ever seen him like really pay attention to a sporting event. And it was kind of like, did you see that, Dad? I'm like, oh, I run alongside him and just grab as many rebounds as I can and try to cling on the court. But over the last few years, when I'm intentional about things, I tend to get good at them. And so I'm a decent shooter.
Yeah.
Basically just move.
You're like a jack of all trades. Let's be real though. It's funny. I already do track, high jumping now. And obviously I know you do basketball, but like, let's be honest, like calligraphy, you name it. Like, I feel like
a lot of weird things.
You're like the Dos Equis man, but like in the neighborhood.
Like a poor man's version of it. Yeah.
But every time I'm like, oh, I wonder who does this. You're like, oh yeah, I got that. I got a screen printer. I got a calligraphy set. I got, like, it's like you just naturally, I think, dabble in a lot, but how have you been able to pick it up so well? I feel like you don't dabble. Like, there's a lot of people that dabble and aren't good. You dabble and I feel like hold your own on each of these categories.
I'm like an aggressive learner. Like I don't want to like use a remote and not know why when I press the button it changes the channel. And I think there are areas like I'm just intentional about all of those things. And so the handwriting thing was, I want to circle back to that because it's really, you're saying something nice about me, but I want to bring up the point of how we came to it. We were at the park we were actually just me, you, and like 4 of the moms.
Yes, yeah.
And we were talking to Travis. You threw out this question to everybody of like, what's something you used to do that you're not really doing anymore, that's not serving you anymore? And everyone answered questions. And then it sort of circled into like, what's something that you would do a little more of if you kind of had time or people wouldn't know about you.
Yeah.
And the calligraphy thing was one of my points. Is like, I don't know that people would know that I have really great handwriting and that I enjoy writing.
Such a fun little nugget I found. Like, I love that question. It's like, like, what talent do you have on exile? It just pulls out the best nuggets.
Yeah. Well, and then in true Travis fashion, he didn't bring me a calligraphy set. He brought me two so that I could then also pass the gift on to the next person. I actually like both sets for different reasons.
There it is. There it
I
is.
haven't shared with anyone yet, but I did I did for that ripple effect of like when you do something like that. Like I wrote a few people letters, like hand intentionally wrote letters out of that, partly in practice, but it was one of those things where it's like, man, you do a really good job of creating little ripples and having that impact other people. And I know that's on purpose, but I was thinking about like what I've learned from you and advice that I would give. And if I could, like, if you were in a situation where you were in trouble, not financial, but you were in trouble, like whether you were right or wrong, you got put in the back of a cop car and you have a phone call and nobody's life's derailed from this. You'd rather not call your wife. If you've got to call a friend, who are you calling? You've got a split second to call. Don't call me.
It's so funny. I mean, your natural inclination is call your spouse,
Right.
Because you're like, but because of what I did to get in the back of the cop car, I honestly I'd probably say Jeremy. We've referenced him a few times on this call. Like he picks up his phone. I don't think I've ever called him.
Yeah.
He hasn't picked up his phone,
Yeah.
and he's dialed. Like he's the type that would like get it done, and he would figure it out. Like he's a natural problem solver. He's the type where down Olympics we come to have a great time. He comes with a 7-page Google Doc
Oh
and
yeah.
walks through the rules because he knows there's going to be conflict if we don't have this outline. So I'd probably say Jeremy right now.
Jeremy is a great. I think I think everyone should call Jeremy if they get in trouble.
Okay, the whole podcast should actually be called "You Need a Jeremy in Your
Yeah.
Life," and like this is our way to get Jeremy into everyone's lives.
When Jeremy said, "I don't know how I fit into all of this,"
Yeah,
just trust me. I was like,
You're the glue.
You're not going to get out of this in any way, shape,
No.
or form." I would have a similar. I would have a similar answer. Jeremy would probably be mine, or Zach, who was one of my business partners. I would encourage, like, if you were listening to that and you were trying to think, oh, who would I call?
Yeah.
You should text that person right now or after you're done listening to this and say, hey, I was listening to these two guys, my friends or whoever, some random dude from TikTok that I know, but they were talking about who they'd call if they were in trouble. And I just want you to know that my answer was you. Like that person's going to carry that.
Who's ever been told that?
Right. And you'll think it and you're like, nah, I don't do it. I have made it an effort, like I do it with Susan, where like if I see her and she catches my eye and I think whether it's her hair or whether something's changed and I think, man, she looks great. My golden rule is to not ever swallow a compliment that I have for someone else. So like and I'm not somebody who like, I don't take compliments very well. If people like start, oh, you do this, it's usually deflect as much as possible. A lot of times people think I'm like sort of annoyed by it. It's just a bad habit that I have or a bad response. But I'm very intentional in like not letting a compliment go. So anyway, my encouragement to anyone that's listening, like if you had somebody who you thought of, like I would send them a text and go, oh, I just was listening to a podcast, had to answer this question in my own head, and you were the person that came to my mind. I promise you, like it'll mean something to them forever.
But see, I want to pack this a little bit more. So I think about, we live in, the greater Seattle area. And I actually think that it's so incredibly hard to have that intentionality with compliments because the way people receive now, it could be offended. They could be seen as inappropriate. They could be seen as like that's crossing a line. Like I feel like people are like, not only do they not take the compliment, they actually like weaponize the compliment. And maybe it's because, again, working in the corporate world, I think I could be like ultra careful with compliments because like how that could be perceived as a leader, for example, or as a white male leader. Like I know I've had to play the idea of being like, how does that land if I say that compliment in a broad room, in a one-on-one setting, and even in like a personal setting, even in our neighborhood, how you give compliments matters.
Yeah. I think it's even risky bringing that up, to be honest. Like there is an element of like, oh, you have it so hard, you have to like caution your compliments and I think like this is what I want to be able to do is like be really honest that like we recognize our privilege, we recognize like all of those things, but just like creating a little bit of room to say what is acceptable and what's not. I think it's so personality dependent, and it's one to one, and I do think we're in a spot where it's risky.
Yeah.
If you kind of have to stay away from anything that's physical.
You have to.
Yeah,
You have to.
entirely. And that's probably the right, I mean, just again, I haven't thought about this at all. So it's the risk of putting something out as you're thinking about it in real time. That's one of the beauties of a podcast is like we are just thinking through our thoughts. I don't know. Yeah, we've done it before where I'll make like AI songs about a person. And that's really at work. It's easier to do with someone I've known for a long time. That's a guy, and I can sort of like poke fun at like the thing that Zach does. And so in reverse, we would try and do it. It's kind of like an icebreaker, and we would kind of make fun of the company. Like the song would be about how the company's driving us so hard to try and get all these products out, and we're trying to fill these orders. But then we try to throw a little dig in there and have some fun with it. And like I did recall at the end of the day, like then other people were doing it. I thought, oh, this is really dangerous.
It can spiral quickly.
It can spiral quickly, especially if somebody feels a little barb on something and it's like, oh, well, let me have the phone. I will generate the next one. And they would know somebody a little better. And you could sort of feel like, oh, is this becoming the most bonding, fun thing we've ever done? Or are we on the verge of like an HR nightmare?
Yeah. Vulnerability in the corporate workplace is scary.
Scary. Yeah. So, yeah, and I think that's part of why, like, the community of dads, like our text threads, like Adam is like, he's one of the funnier people.
So funny.
He sits like often in the background and just comes in on the text threads and is just like shredding people. Yeah, I love it. But I think that's important, that like that's one of the things that we have is that there's a high tolerance for teasing each other, and knowing that like obviously
But also, we pull it back though sometimes too. Like, you know, we've had some text threads where people are like, "Yo, like this has gone too far. Like, pull it back." And I appreciate that. I actually appreciate there's a level of where you can let it rip, and there's a level of being like, "Hey, like we're still."
Maybe that might be why I'm not on a couple text threads.
I mean, I think it's a thin line. I struggle with it. Like, I think I spent the last probably 5 to 10 years of my life really debating how many punches I pull. I use the boxy reference. I don't know why I'm keeping going back to that, but it's like there are a lot of times where I'd say something where like that's the first maybe joke that comes into my mind, or that's the first thought to throw out there, and I run it through like my edit filter of like all the things, and I end up pulling it. I'm like, a part of me wants to be like, what if I get old enough where I don't pull those anymore?
Yeah. How old are you?
41.
Okay, so I got 5 years on you, and I don't know if it's as much of an age thing. I'm like very, very pro counseling, and I have what I believe is the greatest counselor of all time. He's just I saw him today, and I have learned a mountain of lessons from him. I just don't think I would even be remotely close.
It's actually Jeremy Brock.
Jeremy Brock is my business counselor for sure.
That's right.
But no, it's funny. I can't say why that's funnier than you think, but anyway, he's involved too in this in a roundabout way. But anyway, I love therapy. I love counseling, all of the things. I think at the end of the day, like we're really just trying to figure out how to be as close to who we want to be, and sort of battling the wounds of like, well, I wonder if they can hear that car.
Probably. That was loud.
It sounded like a Ferrari that cruised by the building. Anyway, I just think we're all sort of dealing with the things that were thrown at us through childhood, and that we were just sort of having to fight our way through, and getting to a spot where you're comfortable it takes a long time. I never thought I would be on camera ever. When I married Susan, I was like, this is perfect. I have somebody who loves singing, loves entertaining, wants to be on the camera, and I like way more than podcasting and making videos. I like editing. I like the gear and the process of building out studios and this kind of thing. Like that's one of the things that checks my box. But the process of being like on camera and talking to people, I never really thought that was. I knew I could be a mentor to people. I have a background in coaching. Like I knew I was going to like lead young men in sport, right, and sort of find their way, because that's what sort of I think saved me or gave me focus in my youth. But I think we're all sort of on a mission to figure out like how can I be the most organic, natural version of myself and limit as many of my flaws as I possibly can. I don't know if that it comes with age, like I think I think Susan's done it at a lot younger age. I always look at her and go, man, you're so lucky. You've like, even the way she managed the business, I'm like, you are doing things that I was older than you and still didn't have the confidence to just say no to certain things that are outside of what I wanted to do. And I think we're all sort of moving at our own pace.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right about Susan. It's like every time that I interact with her, it's like she's so authentically who she is, and you never think like I'm getting a different version of her, or like the corporate version, or I'm getting the mom version. It's like no, like that's just her.
And I used to say to a fault, right? And then I
Yeah.
like, no, that's actually my like predisposition to like
Yeah.
guard and be more
Yeah.
controlled and things. And
Yeah.
like, she's never been embarrassed for a version. Like, she's like, yeah, I used to be, wild. I get
Yeah.
Susan could dance her ass off and would like dance. And there would be times I'm like, okay, like, tone it down for God's sake. We're at my cousin's wedding and whatever. And it ends up being the thing that most people remember and love, and like, oh my God, I remember that wedding. You did the Whitney Houston song and dance everywhere. It's like that to me. It was anxiety,
Yeah.
like to
Of
the
course,
max, and
of
to her,
course.
it was just Friday.
Well, how often do you like project your own things onto other people's actions, and you're like, oh, how could they do that? They wouldn't like that, or they would do that. You're like, no, actually, that's who they are and what they.
Yeah, yeah. No, I used to always say, oh yeah, to a fault, because she doesn't know how to like dial it back, and it's like, my thing is I've always had this. I look back and think like my goal is to sort of be a little embarrassed of who I was 5 years prior.
Yeah.
Right there, we all sit and think, now I've got it figured out.
Yeah.
And then you jump forward 5 years, even a year, really,
Yeah.
and you look back and go, wow, that guy really thought he had it figured out, and look how much the world has changed. So it's not to be like ever to not be confident, but I think the like your expectations of who you are and what your life is going to look like are going to evolve, and there is a window of time where my counselor always says like he's like you didn't have enough life experience to make this decision 5 years ago, and now you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for you, the Tourette's thing, that's something that's really interesting, because it becomes a, here you go, kid. Just figure this out now, or in 8th grade, or in high school. And there's people out there that probably are in their 40s and still carry that every day as like as a reason they don't take certain risks. It became the reason you do take risks.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's like I see it now more. When I let some people into that I had Tourette's, and I post on LinkedIn. I shared that.
Yeah,
so what was wild is multiple people reached out, and I had multiple different people say I actually either have Tourette's or I have a son or daughter with Tourette's, and they're like, "That's so cool! I didn't know that like that could be a feature they could have," and it makes me like, man, I should probably vote for one or more often, because it's not, you don't usually lead in the conversation with it. Like, I don't walk up to someone and say, hey, by the way, I have Tourette's. Like, it just becomes, it's one of those ones that no one really asks about it.
I asked you about it pretty early. You were like, oh, and you went right into it, but it wasn't like you didn't bring it to the table. It was,
yeah. But I also think that you foster that. Like I think you naturally have a way of connecting where it feels a safe space. Whereas like there's a lot of spaces that would, if I said it out loud, people wouldn't even know how to react to it.
Yeah, that's good.
And they would put them in a situation where I think they would even get more outcome to that. Yeah. But I think as a whole, I think this is a stage of my life. I don't know about if you feel this. You said you have 5 years on me, but I feel like I'm at the stage where I finally, this is what I've worked for. And I feel like there's so much of the life that's part of the build. And I have a good colleague, his name's Shane Jordan. Phenomenal human. Just someone that I respect so immensely. And he is, I would say, the most prolific goal setter I've ever met, but not in the way that's like he just shoots all these goals out and nothing happens. He like goes and gets them.
Yeah.
But when he gives me his goals for the new year, it'll be like 30. And I always, for years, I would try to go toe for toe with him. He'd be like, okay, you have an intellectual goal, I'm gonna put one on there. You have a physical, I'm gonna put one on there. Not like I'm trying to beat him, but just as like, if he's getting all these categories accomplished, like I'm gonna do those. And I think I finally hit that realization. Like I look at my goal doc this year, and it's just a couple. But it's like, this is what I've been working towards. Why am I trying to be a different version of who I am? Like if like my whole life I'm working to like, I want to have a beautiful, beautiful wife that loves me, that I love her back, this great relationship. I want to have wonderful kids that are happy and healthy and learning and growing. Great community, great friends. I'm like, okay, like I'm blessed in the sense that those lanes are in a good spot. Why can't I just love life now?
Yeah.
Why am I trying to get to a goal that like takes me out of that to somewhere else? That doesn't mean I don't want to improve, but at the same time, like, can't you savor the moment you're in? It's like running a race that never ends. Like, who wants to run a marathon that doesn't stop?
That's cool.
Do you feel that way? Do you feel like there's a moment where you're actually, there's a part of you that you're like, this is the me I've waited for?
Yeah, I think this is an example of the age not really defining where we're at, right? Like, I think I'm coming into that season and have been like, just even work wise, like I work in the cannabis industry, and it's like, it's so uncertain at all
Yeah.
times. And there have been times when I thought, I have a printing press and I'm going to be as wealthy as I could possibly imagine. And there have been long stretches where that has proven to be not the case at all. And so I think where you're at in your career makes a big difference. And I think
Yeah.
for me, I've carried some prestigious titles and I've got to manage some crews that I like. I'm really, really proud of what we've pulled off. And then there are times where I haven't found the consistency in what I want to do professionally
Fair.
yet. And partly because I think I'm trying to do some things that are like reactive to what's available to me. So what
Fair.
I've been doing with, God, Jeremy Brooks, might as well just put him in
You
this.
might as well just,
But Jeremy is somebody who's helped me sort of change my way of thinking around business and what I'm willing to do and what I'm going to take on, and manage sort of what that looks like. And I've seen the deployment of those ideas over the last 6 months has brought a lot of focus, as in what I'm going to do next. And so
yeah.
I feel I'm excited about that portion. But as far as like being in the moment, like my situation, I've told this story before. My mom had me at 14. We were on our own most of the time. My parents were married for a little stretch of time. They flew them to Utah to get married. It's the only place where like pre-teen, they're like early teens could get married at the time, or maybe still. I probably bet that's the only place that they let 14-year-olds get married. And so it was like my mom couldn't drive to work, or they didn't have a license then. So she would just stole her sisters and use that to get around. But after that, my mom and I just kind of bounced around, and I went to like, 5 elementary schools. And I know I always say like, there's way worse stories out there. And like, there's some like amazing things that came about through that sort of struggle. But my version of my life, I think it's even hard for my mom when she comes and stays with us. Like, it's so normal compared to what I had, that like
Yeah.
that I've always been hyper aware of, like how much different my life is today than what I grew up in.
Yeah.
And like, that's sort of the point of all of it for me,
Yeah.
really, is just to try and create a situation that, like I said, my kids are going to make mistakes and have hard times. Like,
Yeah.
like we can't like protect against everything, but
I mean, I just feel like, you said you're trying to do this. Like, I feel like you're killing it. Like, when I look at like your kids, like I look at them, they're just wonderful humans. And I think that takes over everything else. Like, it's like,
hopefully that's like our best work, right?
right,
Is
right.
that-
That's
yeah,
your Picasso's right there.
and I think sometimes people think I'm like favor Carter over Caden. Like, and maybe the boys will hear this at some point in their lives, I'm sure. But like, Caden's such a wild card, and he's so good at a lot of things. And I think, and I'm speaking to you, I know Atlas is like hyper intelligent, and we can talk about that later. I don't know how it all fits in, but like, Caden is also in this category where like he's just doing things that are surprising for somebody who sort of presents as like a little bit of a meathead. He's super cerebral. And like, we just had a thing where somebody asked about the boys driving, and Susan was like, they're like, oh, you worry about Carter driving? Susan was like, not at all, not Carter at all. Caden probably. And Caden heard her, and he looked at me, and he just goes, like, what? And so I had to say to Susan, like, hey, he's old enough now where that comparative game of like, Carter we can trust, and he does it for
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
And I was like, Caden like hasn't done anything to not earn that either. He's just young. And our comparisons, Carter was always like a very mature kid for his age, and still is. And I just have a high degree of trust. And I don't know, some of that I might have crossed some boundaries as far as like
Yeah.
how I've raised him and like what he's aware of.
Yeah.
But with my family dynamic, like, you kind of have to tell the truth on that. Otherwise, you can get a sort of it can get heavy.
Yeah.
And so like, he doesn't understand like
Context of words matter with kids. Like, it's
Oh,
wild how like one word choice wrong. I feel like with Atlas, you mentioned like it's like he'll catch you on that word and be like, "Why did you say that word? Like, why did you
you
just
had other choices, and
you had other
picked that.
choices?"
Yeah.
And you're like, you have to like defend it, and you don't want to lie. You're gonna be honest, and so that sometimes you got to put your tail between your legs and just say like, "Didn't mean it," or I came out
Yeah.
too fast," or which is hard. Where you have to kind of apologize to your 7-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that's let's be honest, we didn't grow up with that. Like I didn't
Yeah.
grow up in a world where my grandpas or my dad didn't apologize to me. Like there was never a scenario.
Waiting for a huge apology from.
Fair. But it's like, but think about it, like everything was just sweep it under the rug if there was a problem, and it was never their problem.
Yeah.
That's not neither were bad parents by any means. My parents, I got very fortunate, had a loving household, but it was very traditional in the sense of like, my mom and my dad and how they interacted with us and what you probably guessed from that. And I think that I look back now and I'm like, I've never heard an apology from him. Not that he was doing all these things wrong,
Right.
but like I look at it now and I'm
They
like,
didn't hit every single thing.
no,
apart, right?
now it's like the emotional intelligence children can be raised with. It's like acceptably raised with. It doesn't mean that you have to go to the nth degree, but like showing them that like when you make a mistake, you fess up to it. They're gonna have a very different example when they grow up of being like, when I do something wrong, I need to fess up because that's all I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think we don't know what a generation of kids that are raised that way, who they turn into. We're all sort of a version of what we were sort of programmed and conditioned to. My therapist today asked a question, and I'd be curious, like, think about this yourself and what your answer would be. But he said, at this version of yourself, at the age that you are and the knowledge and wisdom you have now, what does your sort of wise self say? I think this is 100% true. May not be forever, but right now I believe this is true. And he's like, so write a statement that falls into that. And my statement today was, I believe that most adults are pretending to be what they think an adult would be. We're there. You know how many times I've looked at my friends, especially like other. I'll give the example. I don't want to out anybody, but like a little turmoil with Carter's basketball team, right? We're all in the gym, and you can see who's like wanting to stir up the trouble, and who's sort of like playing it cool in the corner, and
Yeah.
being back in a high school gym and having like some of those dynamics played. I'm looking around like, oh, you're acting like we would in high school. All of us are to some degree. I even joked about myself, like I'm trying to be too cool with the brand new Jordans on, and the hat turned sideways, and the thing, like I'm posted up on the bleachers. I'm like, oh my God.
Like you're doing.
We're all like, when sort of stripped down, we're still just like the version that we were in high school. And there's still someone like off telling on someone else and reporting back.
Yeah.
And I thought,
it's like the queen bee of the group.
oh,
Like,
100%. 100%. And so like when the buzzer goes off and we all walk out to the car, and now we're giving the kids lessons on like, hey, out there you should have hustled a little harder, and I know coach was right when he told you this. Then you walk in the car, and I sat down. I was like, I don't know. We're all doing our best, and I think that's the best thing we can do is just be honest. Like Carter's called me out on a few things, and he's like, hey, you keep saying this, but you know this, it's totally okay for you to do this. I'm like, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at least not without acknowledging that I'm making that mistake.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Call. I mean, I think it's true. Funny, you mentioned getting in the car and talking about like what the coach said. I was reading something the other day that was saying that you should post any event, like whether that's
I know
a
exactly
recital or a sports event. You should not get in the car and talk about the event itself, like coaching, what they could have done better, what went well. I just let it be. Like let them have that moment to like soak into it versus you're the parent, you're their safe spot.
We took out I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Because my being proud of my son isn't about whatever he did or didn't do on the court. So on the days when he doesn't have a great game, do I not say that I'm proud of you? So the question that's sort of, and Carter would be like, oh yeah, right. We've had a lot of conversations on the way home, but this is actually the example that I was giving. I wore a GoPro when I was coaching him in flag football, and he was good. It's talent-wise, not a strong arm. His footwork was he's such a willingly coachable kid.
Yeah.
We were just badass, and we were like a machine, and he was an extension. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, if he wanted to be an elite quarterback, we've got this. And I was wearing a GoPro on my head and coaching, and the offensive coach, when they're young, is allowed to be on the field.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I had to play back the footage to work on stuff with him with the volume off because I couldn't stand what I was saying. And I thought, if you won't listen to it again with him afterwards, how dare you say it in the first place?
Yeah.
And I was like, for me, that hit hard.
Yeah.
And I had a couple spots where I replayed it, and like it almost brings me to tears now just thinking about what I said. It wasn't anything personal attack on him. It was just so unnecessary about driving the point home that I could see it was like making him shrink. Like I needed him to be small and sort of earn his way back into the like decision. And we're talking about an 8-year-old
Yeah.
playing in a rather meaningless in the
Totally.
grand scheme of
Totally.
things. And I just thought, oh man. So I've been really aware. He has an option. I usually say, do you want to talk to me as a coach or do you want to talk to me as a dad? And as his dad, it's what did it feel like to be out there?
Yeah.
You know, I love seeing you compete. I love seeing you try.
Yeah.
But the idea that my pride is tied to his accomplishment
No.
is something that
The beauty though, it's an easy pivot. I mean, Katie, frankly, she set the tone with this, or I don't know if she read it somewhere, but she just said to that same thing. Don't say ever, either of us, that we're proud of you, but always just say you should be proud of yourself and turn it into a statement where like that pride is drive from within. And so we've coached our kids in that way, and it really does wonders when it's just like anything from like kid getting themselves dressed for the first time and be like, you should be so proud of yourself for that. And it seems so simple, but you're like, it builds that confidence is confidence you can't fake when you do that.
That's good advice. That's like the don't ask your kid how school was today.
No.
Like it's such a dead end road. It's really like when I do it, I think, oh, you lose. Like that's such a weak ass question. Like there's no good answer. I can't answer that question if somebody asks me, you know, like how fine. Like if you want a nothing answer, best way to get that is ask a nothing question.
Well, and also, okay, take us away from even the kid element. When you think about general conversation with adults, how often is that conversation on a daily basis? If you don't take your close friends or your family, is it weather related, especially Seattle? It's weather, gray, rain,
weather, sports.
It's something is so generic, and I think I've done some reading on it. And they were talking about how when somebody hears one of those, inadvertently they actually assume someone has low conversational skills because naturally you default to the fact that they don't actually know how to hold an actual interesting conversation, and your brain turns completely off to a different gear. And so I don't know about you, but I try to make it, and you probably heard this, I ask a lot of weird questions. I try to ask really
answered a lot of your
I try to ask really strange questions. I don't talk to people about work.
Yeah.
Ever. Like you will not hear me ask somebody like, what do you do for a living? Or like and I even had one of the neighbors, Des' wife, Alice, she basically, I found out it had to have been 9 months after I knew her, and she's like a Harvard-educated lawyer. Yeah. And I'm like, you are an absolute badass at your field. I had no idea because I don't ask about work. I don't honestly care what you do for work. I don't care what anybody does for work because that doesn't define who you are as a person. But I feel like if you can get away from those questions, you get some cool layers. Like I found out you did calligraphy, like we mentioned earlier. Like you ask the right question, you unpeel a layer that you didn't know about, and then you can just keep pulling from there.
Yeah, I think that's one of your superpowers. So wrapping up a podcast is one of the hardest things to do, especially early on. And I think for us, like I just want to just tell you like how much I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you. I've learned a ton from you in the last couple of years, and I like look forward to us in our 50s. I can't imagine what's possible by then, and that's a really cool feeling to have, not just in a friend, but like the collective group of people. We keep adding this to this cast of characters, and I hope there's people out there listening that are like, hey, I want to do Dadcathlon. If you want to do it in your neighborhood, like we are happy to turn over assets and resources to help you do it. If you're interested in connecting, like this is sort of, you know, my goal is to be active in communication with people that are commenting on videos and asking questions, and our guests will be, we're going to start off with kind of starting small with almost like a local newspaper, right? People read the paper to see their own name in it, see their picture, and find out what's going on around them. And so the concept of this being sort of built around our neighborhood and community is kind of what we're going to use as the hub for the wheel, but it's obviously going to spoke out into much bigger topics, much bigger issues and things that are sort of going on around us. So if people have ideas or someone that we should have on the pod, let us know, because this is going to be a lot of fun.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited for this.
Me too.